Hello, Natroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today we've got another interesting episode. Today we're going to be talking about, well, doing noise reduction. More importantly, we're going to be talking about doing temporal noise reduction using a technique invented, well, I won't say invented, demonstrated to we Natron users by this fellow named Chris Charlton, who happens to be here with me straight from Australia, which is why this episode is a bit on the later side than usual. Say something, Chris.
Hey guys, how are we going?
Aye. Well, so Chris, do you have, we're sitting here side by side. Do you have anything you want to say about this, or how did you come about this? Out of curiosity.
Well, I came across this a while back. As many people know, I'm a bit more agnostic in softwares that I use. So I actually came across this in Nukeland. Someone managed to break down how to do this. And it was just a post on one of those image hosting. I forget which one it was. It wasn't Instagram or anything. It was the like back alley kind of post that I just found, and was just like, because I search a lot for a lot of information on the internet, and yeah, I just saw it and was like, wow, that's really cool. But it helped me figure out the first step of it, which is like we'll get into it obviously, but the three frame kind of approach to a temporal median. But it only showed the first step. It didn't really show how to take it any further than 3 frames, which is not ideal. So yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to demo this, or would you like me to demo this, or how do you want to?
I don't mind. We're gonna roll with the punches, I think.
If you're going to demo it, I'll flip to your camera. If I'm going to demo it, I'll flip to mine. We're doing this a wee bit different because, you know, I like giving credit from where I found out about it, which is this fella here, to the proper person. And so, you know, anyway. Let me just show, before we go too much farther, I just want to show that these are some pictures that or did the other day, just showing this first one. This is an old image that from some really bad video that are taken from a haunted house many years back. It was done completely underexposed, massively. Chris has seen this. He can tell you it was very on the screen.
It's not the friendliest looking footage, I can tell you that. Over, like, dealing with low-level lights, you're going to have that trouble. It's always going to be heavy grain. So, yeah.
And so I had applied, this is afterwards, this is using just 3 frames of temporal noise reduction, and I'll blended it at a level of 50%, and I'm sure that we'll get into that. So I'm going to cut over to Chris's camera, and Chris is currently drinking a soda, and that's okay. But
I got a little bit of a delay on the image, so give me a moment. All right, I'll bring up my screen, and we can have a look at this. So give me just a moment. See if it pops up. There it is. There we go. Okay, so we should be able to see my screen now. So I believe we're going to be hosting this one free, this script, which has a few things. So that's great. Go away. So our lovely shot. And there's a number of things we can go through. So there are other ways that I'm going to quickly glance over that you can approach graining and degraining. Some of the ones that are in existence already. FFT, which we're not going to cover today, but a very cool technique, which I'm trying to figure out how to get that functioning correctly in Natron. Then there's using high-pass frequency bands, which is kind of fairly straightforward. Just using blurs and kind of dividing out your image and then multiplying it back on so you can control those finer details. There is the bilateral kind of approach with an edge detection, which is probably what I would end up using on this shot, maybe with a bit of temporal denoising, but we'll get into that in a bit. Then there is what we're actually going to be looking at today, which is the temporal median. So temporal medians, how they work is it grabs 3 frames. It needs at least 3 frames. The first frame is the current frame, or well, the current frame in a time clip. So you can append frames and do frame holds and pull them all together so you can take frames from multiple spots. But in this setup, it's from the current frame that we're viewing, and we're actually using the time offset to go back 1 frame and time offset to go forward 1 frame. And a median is the most common value. It's not the average, which can be quite different. It's the most common value between those 3 frames. So it can give some weird artifacting, and as we kind of review this shot, you can see I'm only doing 10 frames because I don't think we really want to show too much, but as we review it, you can see there is a decent amount of motion in the shot. So that will play against us in this case scenario. Normally when I use this in other softwares, I use motion vectors, which I'm currently working on something for Natron to be able to use those, to try and help push those pixels into a more similar and localized region so that when you do a temporal median, the values are more referentially and spatially correct. So back to how we actually do this one, which is the basic kind of temporal median. We go through and first off, we've got a list of numbers. So we want to find the minimum and maximum. The reason for this is we're trying to sort the list. So if we just think of these as just like one value as opposed to multiple values, and I actually did a nice little setup for looking at this over here, which I've gone with just a whole bunch of constants, all with different values. So value 0, value 1, 2, 2, 2. So just a few of those. So we have a common value. 3, 4, 5, 5. So again, we have another one that has multiple values. 7,
I just wish
9.
to say that I'm seeing a big white frame there. I'm not sure.
No. I know it's not very indicative, but if you look down here, there's our, when we do our control and click, you will actually be able to sample the value of what that value is. And as you can see, it's 9. So
okay.
And this one's a 7. This one's a 5. So I'm dealing with integers in this sample at the moment. So all of these values are exactly the same. So just to really simplify it, we're not looking at multiple pixels in this moment. We're just looking at kind of more of the temporal component of it. Okay. So then I'm appending the clips. I'm doing a frame range just to ensure that they all kind of play ball with the append, and ensuring that they only take up 1 frame each. That way they're all in sequential order kind of coming through. They don't have to be in sequential order for this, just to be fair, but it does make it a bit nicer. So I'm just going to enable my switch, so we're not going to use that footage at the moment, just while we kind of try to see it in action. So I'm in the middle point of our timeline that we're looking at, and what this will do is look to the frame before and the frame after, the frame before and the frame after, and it will get the minimum value of those two. So in this case, this frame is a value of 2. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the spatial. My bad. This has a value of 2. Frame before had a 2. The frame after has a 3. So the minimum value should be a 2. Maximum value of all those should be a 3. Plus them together, and we have to plus them because we're going to subtract them from it, so we need to have the full range. That should give us a 7, and as we minus these out, we actually notch down to the poor value, which is the 2. So we're doing a sort, and that's essentially the primary thing to understand behind it is it's a sort. You have to sort the values out from one another. And as we introduce more values, it becomes more heavy, but it becomes more valuable as well to us. So here we go. So here it is in the first stack. So this is the first stack. So it's just looking at 3 frames, and it's finding the median of those 3 frames. Now, if we did another stack, but this time, instead of setting these values to 1, we're setting them to look out an additional value on top. So now it's looking out 2 values further out. It allows us to now be looking at 9 frames because it's got the median of one side and the other side because they're stacking on top of each other. So you end up with it looking at approximately 9 frames. Well, not approximately, it is looking at 9 frames. Not sure if I've actually done the maths there quite correct, I have to admit. I'll double check that later. Still, it'll work for this example, just because of how many frames it'll be looking at. And if we go down another level, you'll be looking at 27 frames because it's to a power of the way that these kind of stack. So this can be, so it's compounded and it's an exponential process. So it will become much heavier the more of these you stack, but you don't have to stack many to be looking at quite a lot of frames. So 27 frames is going to cover our frame range for well over the numbers that we've got in here. But if we look at our value, we are still getting a 2 at the end of the day, which is the most common value that we were putting through. Now this is dealing with integers at the moment. So if I divide this down and push into float land, we should see that it will make a 0.2 down here be the value. It's great. It means it is actually finding the median of all of those frames. So if I switch back now to our plate, it will give us the median of all of those frames, which is quite a lot of noise removal, but then we start seeing some of the other problems that are apparent.
Right, which is that we lose all the detail in the sharp bits that we expect.
Bingo.
So you can see, if people are looking at this, we can see that there's no eyes. The eyes are basically all the sharpness around the eyes, her eyebrows, or her eyelids, and her pupil, and her iris have all but disappeared, and that's not good.
No, like it's doing a great job at our grainy areas over here, where it's nice and flat, and it's generally in the same position. I know there's a bit of shake in the camera, but it's generally in the same position, so it's getting a generalized color of that region.
Right.
But for the areas where it's moving quicker and it has, a very clear defined edge, that's when we're finding it starts falling apart. So there are things with using motion vectors where you can kind of mush the data around into a similar location. Mm-hmm. But at this point in time, I'm not sure if Natron has that capability, but I am trying to personally work on that to try and get that available.
Well, so, that would be, I think that is great if we could.
That would be amazing for you guys, because that changes a lot of how a lot of processes are done, and a lot of tricks you can do with vectors. So yeah,
I agree.
But we'll keep it on track.
So here's the question. All right, obviously we don't have access to this, and we're sort of at the end of this. I think one of the things I might do is I might bit back here at the end and sort of construct this quickly, do a quick, how can you make this on your own? Because there's a lot of nodes on your graph here, and I know people can download them, but I don't know that they're going to know where to start, where to end, and so forth. And
that's fair. All right. So I might turn off my screen now, and I'll let you take over. How's that?
All right. How about, all right. I'm going to, actually, I was trying to pull up yours on mine, and I'm like, oh, I'm missing the video. So what I'm going to do is just, pull it, or we'll switch over to, let me get my Natron just set up, because I was not fully intended to do this.
That's the fun of life.
All right, you can. Why don't you? All right, you can.
I'll kill this now and
Yeah, kill that. I'm switching over to. There we go. We got the two of us. I have my Natron up here. So, let's just. We have nothing in here. We first need some footage, and of course, I was not thinking I was going to need this, so I might have to dig around just a minute. Whoops, that's not what you need right now. I'm sure if people look at that, they're going to be like, hey, those look a lot like the stuff that's winding up on YouTube. Well, it is. That's what those are. Anyway, let me find the... Where is it? I've got it right here. That was, I think it was this one, and... Oh, how often do you get to hang out with a pirate, Chris? Or say as you're drinking a Coke or something.
There's no rum in this Coke. It's too
no
early.
Rum? Oh, there's always time for rum. Everybody knows that. All right, just so people understand, I just want to bring up, this is what the footage actually looks like. This very footage that we were just looking at. This is it. In its initial state, which as you can see is way too dark. So I'm gonna just, for right now, this was shot in RAW at 1600 ISO way back, and everybody's probably going, anybody who knows what that means is on a Blackmagic camera, which with a 16 millimeter, or the equivalent of a Super 16 sensor. Oh, it was not very good. Anyway,
it's a pretty impressive shot. Like when you're doing candlelit, I'll be fair. Like candlelit is challenging to shoot. There's normally a lot of things that people cheat around. So if you're doing actual candlelit, yeah, it's challenging to shoot that.
Oi, well, this was done. They did not have this. This was shot in the exact environment. It was literally brought in. The cameras were brought through. They did this actually multiple years in a row. There's all kinds of things. These were used for promos and stuff. But anyway, I invented tons of little denoising things, some of which people in Natron have benefited from, and we will be talking in this stream about at a later time. Some of my temporal, or not temporal, excuse me, some of my spatial noise reduction things. It's just, this is temporal, which is useful. All right, so I'm going to just add a multiply here because I need, we're still too dark even after I've brought this up, and I'm just going to bring this up to a ridiculous amount, which means we're going to have quite a bit. This is, we can see there's lots and lots of noise and other issues in this, but this is crazy. This is because it's raw footage on a raw 12-bit footage. Anyway. What we need to do to start this, we're going to do this a slightly different way because Chris showed this and I said, I bet I can simplify this. And what I used, instead of using, I think you used the frame offset node, was that correct for yours?
Time offset?
Time offset, right.
Time offset, yeah.
What I used was the frame range, frame range, there we go, I think it was, no, frame blend, that was it, frame blend. We take the frame blend, and I've got this set so we've only got one node showing at a time, so I set it to -1, and I'll set the last frame to +1, all right? And so that gives me the frame range. That gives me 3 frames. We have behind the current frame by 1 frame, we have the current frame, which is 0, and we have 1 frame ahead in time. All right, so and we're going to blend them together. And the question is how are we going to blend them together? Well, it just so happens we have these options here. We have minimum, which is one of the modes he used, maximum, which is the other mode he used, and then for plus we use sum, which is the exact same thing. So we need to just basically copy this 3 times, and we're going to set the first one to, we'll set this one, it was minimum first, right? And then it was maximum, so we'll select the second one, go maximum, and then on the third one we'll do a sum. Now I don't have my reference graph up, so if I start screwing this up, tell me, hey, you're putting this in wrong.
You're going the right way. You're totally on the right path. So
all right, so then we're gonna take, we're gonna plug this into the all 3 of these into our multiply. or the X output of this multiply, which would be anybody's normal footage that needs temporal denoise. Now, what we're gonna do, the sum in his, I did a thing called, we merged these. All right, so we're gonna first take, this is our sum over here. We're gonna merge this, and I think the sum went into the B. That was the most background image, correct?
I think. Well, you've got. I don't know. I'm waiting for the stream visually to So anyway, so you're merging them. Yeah, you're going to merge them together. But you're going to -1 from the other.
But you know what? I've got it all right here. I do have it right here. All right. So yes. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this is the max. I just want to make sure that I have them correct. I've made that. This one was supposed to be sum. Sorry. You know what? I'm going to just label these in the node info. This is going to be sum here. That way we can see sum down below it. Then we change this one. This one should be max. And we'll put max here, just so we can see it. And then this one is min. And so we're going to put min here. This is not a complex node graph, honestly. It's really pretty simple. So then what we do is we take the sum, all right, this one over here on the right, and we're going to take and merge over it the max. And what we're not going to actually do an over. What we're going to do is we're going to subtract the maximum from the sum. So we go back here.
I'm just going to butt in. Sorry.
Oh, go in.
Do you want to reposition me or reposition your node graph just so?
We're
getting a bit covered.
Thank you for pointing. Aha! Yeah, I see it. Sorry, I had Windows up over my live feed, and you were right. I forgot you're over here on the left here. So yes,
I just want them to be able to see what they're doing, and they don't need to see me. I'm not here for that.
Well, look. All right. You know what? I'm gonna for the moment, I'm gonna disable him. I apologize. Goodbye, Mr. Gessel. You can talk over me in the background. You should still be there. Hopefully, everything's good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna turn you back on. Uh-oh. I'm a little worried. That might have... Oh, that screwed everything up. All right. Oh, boy. I might have just... Are you there? Hold on. No, you're not. Oh, fool. All right, everybody. Give me 2 seconds. I've got to get Chris back. No. I don't have you on audio. Don't have you in anything. I'm going to just pull up the guest cam for a second. I got to... Oh, sorry, everybody. I've just got to do an interact here. Got to just change this and go. I've got to join the meeting. Put this down. Chris is back. I apologize, everybody. I just realized I should not have. There you are. You're back. Want to give me just a talk for a second? So I can,
Yep.
There you are. All right, you're there.
Cool.
All right, so
we're all good.
I'm going to go back into the Natron and cams, which are... yes, I've moved you off to the bottom so you're not visible. All right, there we go. You should be able to talk. Give me a talk for a sec.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah. Everything's good. We're all good. We're professionals here.
Flowing and going.
All right. So here we are. We're back in Natron. We've got this up, and we can see we have the sum. We have the sum is going into the B. We have the max going into the A input. And then for this merge, what we're going to do is we're going to set the merge to from. And the reason is we're subtracting the max from this. And we can already see what it's starting to do. We can see this sort of ghosting that's happening here. And we've removed a little bit of the noise. If we go back to our original, this is prior to it, and this is after the from. And we can see here, and we can also see the noise reduction that's going on here. So it's a very simple thing. We are getting a little bit of blending weird. It's changing the outline of this, the fire over here on the left side. There's not much we can do about that. This is a problem with the fact that we don't have any motion vector compensation that we were talking about. This is why it's important really to get motion vectors into a program if you're really going to do it. But this is better than nothing. It's way better to temporal noise reduction of some form. So this, anyway, let's continue on. I don't want this to go on forever today.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah, we're gonna. So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to do a second merge here, and we're going to take and put our minimum going into the A of that one. All right. And then what we want to do is, instead of doing over, we want to do also from. And when we do that, we can see now we've cleaned up almost just, did you see that massive jump in noise reduction? Look how much it's jumped here. All right, let's go back to our original. That's our original. We can see all this noise over here. When we go back here, we can see that it's removed a lot of the noise. But we have some problems here. We have what I call temporal ghosting. And temporal ghosting is this bit where we have these like edges showing up between the fingers. And I personally don't like that look. And we also have lost a little bit of detail. This is only, by the way, we're only doing a 3-frame blend here. I'm going to, in a minute, show how we can take this on one more step. After we've built this, we'll make it into a 5-frame fairly easily too. But we're also going to try and get back some of the eye detail, because if we look at this, we have a lot of eye detail here, and here we've started to lose some of it. Now, in this particular frame, we haven't lost it because she's not moving all that much yet, and we're on the first frames. But right here, we've lost a lot of detail in her eye. It's gone. And whereas here, it's there. So what we're going to try and do is come up with a system to get that back. But the first way we're going to try and get it back is we're going to try to blend it back so that we get rid of these ghosts and make the ghosts look a little bit more, blended together. All right, so how are we going to do that? Let's go back to, we're first going to go to our sum, and on our mixes, all we're going to do for all our mixes is, I found it worked really well if I just set these mixes to 0.5. Now it's going to screw up our end result at first, but we can see when we set this here, let's go back and look at them as we do each one. We'll set this back to 1. This is 1, just the sum. We set it to 0.5, and it looks like this, doesn't change much. We go to the from, to where we're subtracting the max from the sum. And let's get we want to pull up this merge node, and we want to send this merge node to 0.5. All right, and there we go. We can see now that's made it blend a bit more. All right, and then we go to this last one, and we set that also to 0.5. And once we've done it to all 3 of them, we can see now that if we go through this, first of all, we've got a lot more detail in her eyes. We've returned a lot of the detail. Also, if we go back in time to some of the spots where there's big hand wavy movements, I am gonna say people might have to do this with their own footage. I can't give too much of this footage out because this gives away bits of the actual haunted house, because the events were recorded, and I don't want to give too much of it away, just in case somebody goes to this haunted house. It sponsors an organization. So anyway, I'm just looking for. Here we go. Here's some ghosting. We can see that the ghosting. This is the before the ghosting, and of course this is after the ghosting, and after we've done the others. And there still is some ghosting, but it isn't as pronounced as it was before. We're seeing right in this area where the fingers are, it's looking more like a nice gradual motion blur. All right, so this is step 1. We'll call this step 1. This gets us a nice blur, or a nice temporal noise reduction that's blended in, and it gives us pretty good recovery. We could use this. If people like this, they can use it just as is. The question is, can we take this a bit more? Can we do a bit more? And the way we can do this, you can't actually increase these frame ranges. If you increase the frame ranges, the problem is that the distance between all the frames becomes you can't. You're dealing with 3 absolutes. We're dealing with a minimum, a maximum, and a sum. Well, we can get the sum. We'll get the sum, and it'll add all those frames together. But when we subtract the minimums and the maximums, we still have way too much extra information. So what we have to do to this to get more frames is we have to actually, we want to take the result of this and apply it again. So what we basically, to make this from 3 to 5 frames, all we have to do is take this, copy the whole graph, basically like so, and plop that in like that, and this will give us 5 frames of reduction. And we can see it's reduced it a whole lot more, because what it's doing is it's taking the 3 frames that we're working with, and then it's taking 3 frames of those 3 frames, or those 3 results. And so we're working with those and removing more. So it only moves it 1 frame before and 1 frame after, and it sort of builds the equivalent of a pyramid, if it makes sense, of noise reduction. So the centermost frame has the most noise reduction. But the problem we start to see here is that we've lost almost all of the detail. We can see that her eyes just become so darn soft that this is, if we took this, we could do this again and push it out another couple frames. But it would, A, slow things down, and B, we would lose a lot of edge detail. So how can we return some of this edge detail? Well, I was actually asking Chris earlier, we were talking earlier about doing, coming up with a solution here. I'm going to plop you back on. Do you want to, do you have anything, or do you want to guide me through it?
There's a few kind of ways you can go about it. Now, the difference between like the stacking that I've done and what you've done is, as you were saying, a pyramid kind of concept. It's also, another way of putting it is weighting. So you're putting a higher weighting to the centralized points of the median stack. So yeah, you'll get a more temporally stable in the center point output from that. So yeah, totally works for that.
Yeah.
So what you can also do is, as you were saying, we need to kind of pull back the edge side of things. There are a number of ways of going around that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring up I'll leave it up at the moment. So there's a few methods. Obviously, we have our edge detect, which is a mighty helpful node. But I personally don't find that it is giving me exactly the kind of values I want, even though it is horribly useful. So the choices that it's got, even though it's got more choices than what I've gotten in other programs, which is really nice, to be honest. And there are some really nice little choices in here. I actually was playing with it before. The non-maxima suppression is really interesting to me. Anyway, off topic. So some of the approaches that you can do with it is if you push into like a gray kind of scaling of the image, you can try and do like
So you're saying you think I should take here? Let's go over, and I'm gonna just connect up to the output of this. So I'm gonna just guard my hand. I'm gonna let you guard
All right. We'll try one or two approaches. Now I am trying to do these a bit live and fast. So
I know how that feels.
We'll see this goes. So we'll grab a matrix. We'll do a matrix.
Matrix, all right. So we're going to do this. What type? 3 or 5?
We'll go with 3. We don't have to go heaps crazy.
All right. I'm going to actually, I think you just go in here. Isn't that under filter?
I'm building this on the side.
There it is. Matrix 3x3. There we go. All right. So we got a 3x3. It's empty currently. What do you want me to put in for values for your 3x3?
Okay, so all the outer perimeter, we're going to do what's called a sharpening convolve. So we're going to do an outer perimeter that is all -1.
So
and
-1.
The center point cell is going to be 8. So that's saying...
So all of them?
Yep. All of them -1 except for the middle one. Middle one, so dead center, is 8.
This is going to be 8. All right. Because it's working well.
And that should give us a edge sharpen, I believe. I'm just working off the top of my head there. Let's see.
Let's see what we got. That looks that looks really sharp. Oi, that's That's pretty pixelized.
That might not be the one I want. No, because that'll give me the additional grain. This is another way of doing degrading. No, I don't want that one. No. What do I want? What do I want? Here's a good question. I mean, we can try the edge detect.
We're prepared. Edge detect. All right. Shall we just switch to an edge detect? All right. We'll do an
try an edge detect. I'd be curious because I was struggling to get this to play ball exactly the way I wanted with the edge detect.
All right.
I was going to do.
Shall we chuck in
something?
We could chuck in a bilateral in here.
Yeah, this is where I was going to go with. So I was going to say you do a bit of A and a bit of B. So I'd definitely pre-comp this if anyone goes to do this.
So people know we're both chit-chatting in techie terms that you probably not heard me. I've mentioned bilaterals in a previous video, but a bilateral blur can be used as a type of spatial denoising. And that's actually, if anybody's ever used my Nat denoise plugin, which is really old, don't recommend it. It's really massively heavy, but has really an exploration into it. Anyway, it does bilateral blur, and so I'm gonna just try here. We're not gonna do a super duper advanced thing. We're just gonna put in a basic GL bilateral blur, in the hopes that GL works. Let's see. Sometimes let's do bilateral GL right there. It knows it's my fave. Let me go over here. All right, so this is what the bilateral GL looks like, and it's not looking very denoised right now. And I was actually planning on doing this in a separate video, but
sorry,
that's all right. Is what it is. We're not going to explore this too deeply. This is really the main reason. Whoops, I brought this down. So what we do, what bilateral works with, is you have a threshold basically that if two values, pixel values side by side, are above the threshold, they stay sharp, they keep clean, and so they define edges. All right, and if they're below it, they basically blur. How much do they blur? They blur by whatever your spatial standard deviation basically is. So this is how close that threshold is, and this is how much it's going to blur. So, and by doing that, if we apply it in the right way, we can basically, and by the way, the GL1, there's not enough here to do a great bilateral. We have to do a lot more to this. But we can get enough probably to pull out some edges here, because what we'll do is we'll blur away all the noise, or attempt to blur it, and try to retain as many edges as we possibly can. The problem is fine-tuning that exact point where the blur, where things stop blurring and stop being sharp without sharpening the noise. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just pull this down. I'm keeping the blur very high at the moment, and what we're starting to see, we're getting a bit of a blur. We're getting down to the point where we've eliminated a lot, but I don't care about the background. What I'm trying to do is keep her. So I want to try and just keep dropping this down until I get something that will hopefully be sharp enough. I really would like to get back the eyes, as much of the eyes without keeping the other stuff. And I don't think we can really do it with a single one, but anyway, what we can do, we would also probably want to play with, another thing you can do is play with contrast values and switching modes and switching this into chromatic color spaces and stuff like that, which is why I said this is going to be a totally different thing when we talk about spatial noise reduction. But
totally. In put it this way, in one of the things I built previously, I actually I don't think it's a great methodology now. I've actually upgraded from it, but I was using high pass frequency filters to separate, like with a blur of like 2, so very, very small, to be able to separate the higher from the lower, so I can
actually, I think there is. I think duct denoise
through the temporal and one part not with the temporal, so that way you could kind of have it cleaning up certain parts of your image, but not entirely all of your image.
Let's look at our edge detector at this point, see if we can get anything that's even semi-useful. Which one do you think we should use?
I was having a look at the Gaussian on Tensor.
Gaussian Tensor. Well,
yeah, my problem was it wasn't playing ball with the alphas that I anticipated it to play ball with.
All right. Well, let's see. All right. So here we go. We have this. We've created this. Now, mind you, people, I'm going to say that because I was not planning. I actually, you know what? I think I actually have. I don't want to bring up the chaos that is that the node graph where I actually put this up with noise reduction. I did a lot of stuff. I'm just looking to see what maybe I can grab. Where did I grab it? Just give me one moment to look through my graph, because this was a little. This is a problem when you have other things that you have to do, looting and plundering all day, and then you come back and you don't have time from the time the ship lands to the time that you have to do these live streams, and it's like, oh. Anyway, all right. I'm not gonna go through it. Basically, I was trying to find the best solution. What we want to do is create an edge. If we can't use actual motion vector or motion vectors to determine how things move, what we need to do instead is we basically have to work with what we got, which is the original image. And we want to get as clean a line as possible out of that. And the best way currently, well, not the best way, but the quickest way is to use something like some form of denoise on the original image that gives you as clean an image with as low a noise as possible with as much edge detail as possible. And bilateral is one possible way. We've cleaned this up a bit. Actually, let's look at how much. Oh, right, it's a GL. It doesn't actually denoise properly, I don't think. We can see it didn't really change all that much with this one. We did reduce a bit of noise over in here, but the idea is to pull out as much of these type of edges and hopefully pull out edges around the eyes and so forth. We're not getting really great eye detail in here, but we might be able to do something. What then you would do is take this and sort of, I would take this personally. I would probably, I think I'm going to just try and do a clamp here. And yeah, saying some people might be going, clamp? What would you do with clamp, Bill? Oi. Well, the answer is because if you remember, if we set the max and min, what we can do is start dropping out bits of this by pushing up this minimum value so that I can knock out more of those background bits. And then I mean, this is not the best in the world. I might drop it down a bit more. Try and get this so that we can start returning some of these edges here. Now, we're not getting back the eyes. I don't think we're going to get back the eyes due to this footage. But we can drop down, if we drop down the maximum, I'm making sure there we go. I'm like, where's my maximum? There we go. We start getting these edges here that look like this. And it's all about finding the right threshold of value. Right here, we're getting good solid whites around the edges with a lot of grays in here. That'll cause the grayer areas to blend in. Then what I might do, I always use, one of the things I find works pretty well is putting, you know, it's sloppy, but it works quick, works well enough. I like using the Erode Smooth.
Yep, that'll do it. That's not a bad choice in my opinion, in a lot of case scenarios.
So I would use an Erode Smooth here and probably just take this up. I think that I've taken it too much. And then pull it back until I get something like that. That softens it up so that these edges will blend in and won't dominate too much, hopefully. And hopefully this will give us a better edge alpha channel. Then what we need to do is take this and put this into our alpha so we can actually, you know, what we're going to do is remove the noise reduction. Everywhere that this is black or gray, we're going to keep that stuff, then the noise reduction. And where it's white, we want it to be our original, well, not the original image, but after this multiply here. All right, so how are we going to do that? Well, obviously we need to use a merge node. Whoops, I hit the spacebar by accident, not the M, which is what I meant to hit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the B into my... I also want to make sure... Chris, I'm putting you behind the node graph for the moment because I don't think people are seeing everything. You're still going to be there. All right, so
good.
I'm going to put this into the multiply here for the B, for the background. I'm going to put the foreground to the end of our denoise, our 5-stage denoise, because this is really where, if we want to use 5 stages, we really have to return at least some of the edge detail. So now the thought is, of course, as he was saying, he was having problems getting the alpha channel back into it. The easiest way is to use a shuffle node, in my opinion, if it works properly. Let me just think about this. Is the shuffle node the best way to do this?
I see. My problem was I'm not as native to Natron, to be fair, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. But when I've since figured it out. I've been playing around with it in the background. Yeah, it was literally a case of when I'm hitting the edge detect, I just wasn't turning on my alpha channel at the actual topmost, which I thought that was it reading.
Oh,
which not which channels it's outputting on. So,
all right, so
shuffle around that was a bit of a pain.
So what we're gonna do, all right, so we understand right now, coming into the shuffle node, if we look at our alpha channel, it's white because there's nothing going into it, because it's an image. It's an image from a camera. Cameras don't record alpha channel by default. So if we've made an alpha channel out of something from the camera, we have to tell it that we want it to be alpha channel. And that's part of why we have the shuffle node. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the shuffle node and we're going to go to the alpha. We see this is the erode smooth here. Let's go back to this for a second so that we're not looking at this. This erode smooth is coming in on the B channel of this, which it's telling us here, these are the channels, and the alpha is currently B alpha, BA. What we're actually going to do is tell it that we want to use one of the color channels. So we say instead of BA, we're going to use BR. And now if I go to the alpha channel, we can see we're in the alpha channel and it looks just like the other channels. So we have this should be working. And so if we use this as our mask, in theory, if everything worked right, we're going to get one of two results. Either, whoops, we are also running into potentially a clamp issue. Oh, yes, that's exactly... I think we're running into an issue where the... wait a minute, maybe... Oh, no, we're not. What we're doing... All right. So this is because this is our final alpha out of this. We're probably going to want to fix this with another shuffle node after this. Let's just do that right now so we don't forget, because it's always good to fix your alphas before you do this. I often forget to do that. So we're going to put a shuffle node in here. Set the alpha to 1. There we go. And then get off of viewing the alpha, which is why it looked weird to me. There we go. So we're going to have one of two results, and I think we're getting the proper result right now, which is, let's look at it before. This is before. We can see we don't have any eye detail, and then after we sort of have the eye detail. Now the question is, am I doing the right thing? I think we get the inverse. Yeah. This is not being denoised back here. It's actually it's retaining the noise. So what we would have to do is over here, we would just tell it that on the input for the mask, we would want to invert the mask. And then we're seeing that brightened it up a bit, which probably means this needs a clamp node, just a normal clamp, because remember, if we don't clamp it, a lot of times when we start playing with those things, it starts pushing the white values up and down, so things can wind up weird. I just want to make sure
there is another little trick that I like to use, which is instead of using over, switch your merge where you're pushing the two together, your denoise and your clean.
Yep.
You switch to copy instead.
Copy. Interesting.
Yep. So
Good,
copy, and then you put in your alpha just as you would.
Ooh.
But that way, you get a much easier result, so you don't have to go through the whole.
I like this. Process. And there we go. We got a bonus tip. I like this. I've never actually used that before. Never really understood the purpose of copy, but that's a good tip. Great, really good tip. Oh,
yeah. It's
All
the
right, so
same thing as a key mix. So exactly the same operation as a key mix, but it's just in the merge. And to be honest, a lot of the time, I don't know why key mix even exists. I just use merge all the time.
all right, so the big question right now is: did this buy us anything? Did this fix any of our blending issues? And the answer is up here. We're seeing a little bit better. If we look at the thumb here, we get a better edge here on the finger. So it is cleaning up. It's giving us sharper edges there. It's not doing it on the eye, which is what we would really like it to do. But
There's
we
another thing we can do with the eye. So we won't get too crazy technical. But what we can do is we could just rotor that. Yep, you go.
I just want to throw out that I don't want us to go more to over an hour today. So
No, that's fine. What time are we up to?
We're up to 51 minutes, so less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's got to be a quick
This one will
solution.
be a very straightforward one then in the tip of how to approach it. So for the eyes, what we could do, I'm not saying we're going to step through this process.
I'm going to
right
put you
now.
up because I want people to see you. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
When you're talking.
What we could do is you can track the eyes, because what we're suffering from, why this is falling apart as badly as it is on those regions, is what we mentioned before, the tracking data or motion vectors, which is kind of one and the same without going too tech with that. So what we could do alternatively is we can grab a tracker, track the eyes, and then we can stabilize that region, do our temporal workflow, and then match move it back into position, and then patch that region of just the eyes, the region that was stabilized, back over the top. So that will give us back that detail of that region. And you may have to do this in smaller patches, but that is a method, because that way we're reducing the amount of spatial.
I like the way you think. That's very clever. I don't know. We're not going to do that here. No. That's way too.
That is a method.
But
so there's a few ways around.
That's a very advanced technique. That's a good idea. I like that very much. And for those that understand for people who understand, that's a really interesting technique. I really like that. That's actually really clever. I was thinking he's protoing. What?
There's other ones you can.
Really.
There's other ones. We won't get into them. I just.
We're going to be talking more about
stuff. Keep it simple, but not too complicated. So this is a very useful technique. You can use the temporal median beyond just grain. You can use it for cleaning up plates. So if you've got people or things moving fast, you can use this and expand the spacing, and that for that exact example, you kind of have to use my method as opposed to Will's method. But you can use it for cleaning up plates fairly quickly, where there's a lot of movement. If it requires that there is difference between the plates. If there's not difference, then it won't work. So it relies on that difference being there. But yeah, it's got a lot of availability. Medians are awesome. Get into them. Not just spatial, not just temporal.
Well, I will say that we also were talking. There's a whole bunch of stuff we've been talking about over the past few days. My mind has been truly blown. Speaking of blown, should we shoot Natron at least once? Do you even know what you're like?
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
We should shoot Natron. Natron, we love you, but you're sometimes a pain, so we gotta give you the cannon. All right, we shot Natron. Well, because we can. All right. So, I'm just thinking, I think we're going to wrap this up here. I will make both these projects available eventually. I think most people, I don't think this one requires too much documentation. We're definitely yours. We'll put that up there. After listening to you, I was listening to you talking and watching and thinking of my eyes are just going.
Yeah. I really want to be able to give a more clean example for you guys and build a tool that's a bit easier than what we're going through at the moment. but unfortunately, it's just part of the nuance of it. Like, as I'm sure you've come across with the just spatial medians, like there's a lot of nuance where you can do it and where you can't, and it's finding that case scenario where it can just be applied and hooray is, it's a bit more challenging.
I'm going to just cut back to the two of us just so they're here. So this one, Chris Charlton, and I have to say, I'm looking at you, Chris, and I think that this honestly, there's a lot of interesting stuff. The thing that I think that you have shown is that there's a lot of things. If you get the bits and pieces just right, you can do a lot inside of Natron that a lot of people don't realize you can. Because Natron, a lot of people, for the longest time, I was like, I don't know if there's a way of doing, I really want temporal noise reduction, and I don't know a good way of doing it. And then he shows this. I was like, it was like a 5-second quick response to my thing, and I was like, we need to talk, sir. We need to talk. All right. Anyway,
I think for me, like my approach to any kind of tool is really just break it down into the smallest increment that you can and make it as modular as you can. Proceduralism is great. Like that's why Natron is such a good tool, because it's procedural. But breaking things down to the tiniest thing you can, so you can apply it anywhere. Like that's really how you start developing those greater tools, just breaking those problems down into small increments.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons that I prefer Natron over a lot of other, let's say, programs that are in the same price category as Natron is that you can get into the nitty gritty of things, so you can really make some really advanced tools and so forth. And we've seen that with the things like my cloud generator was a really interesting one. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, no, I've checked it.
So I'm just checking the chat because I usually don't do this, but I have a guest and you were talking and I thought, hey, I better check it. Maybe some people just saying, or let's see, here's our comments. We have nice. We have sweet. He's a pirate. Yes, I am. We have
accurate.
we have another video, which means I'm assuming that somebody wants another video at some point in the future. Of course, we want to cut this short, and all right. So I'm gonna just cut back here, and I'm gonna say thanks for watching, and keep on Natroning.